Hello everybody, my name is Tracee Ford and I am your host for the Stages of Chaos series. This is a brand new series that I've come out with based on some information that I have had to face in the last month and a half. I felt like it was worth sharing because it might be helpful to other people that are struggling with challenges in their life where they have been put in situations that they either didn't expect or that's caused traumatic effects in their life. The stages of chaos are shock, denial, fear and slash survival, anger slash resentment, depression, resolve, and overcoming. The first thing that we're going to talk about is chaos itself. It's not a new idea. Chaos surrounds us in all stages of our life, from birth to death. Sometimes we invite our own chaos. At other times, we are forced into what we perceive to be chaos. Still at other times, it is a joint effect on our parts as well as the universe. So how can we deal with the trauma of uncertainty and bleakness? I think we have to first understand chaos theory in order to understand the stages of chaos. The information I'm about to share with you I got from Wikipedia, so I wanted to make sure I cited the source. So first, chaos, the definition. When the present determines the future, but the approximate present does not approximately determine the future. Sounds confusing, huh? This essentially means that just because something should turn out a certain way doesn't mean that it will. And what's more is there is no way to predict when and where chaos will rear its ugly head. Chaos theory has its roots in science. Disciplines like math and meteorology, sociology, physics, engineering, economy, biology, and philosophy. They all accept chaos theory as truth. Essentially, chaos theory studies the behavior of systems that are highly sensitive to initial conditions. The basics, nonetheless, is when small differences in initial conditions bring forth wildly diverging outcomes. This makes long-term prediction totally and utterly impossible. This occurs when the most concrete systems, where future behavior is fully determined by the initial conditions with no random elements, are involved. I have to say, I'm not sure how sociology and philosophy fall under this because they are a soft science and they are prone to extreme variables because they're dealing with human behavior. But these disciplines, as well as others, all accept chaos theory, which is also known as the butterfly effect. So now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to talk about the stages of chaos. This is something that I myself have coined based on my own experiences as well as the aforementioned scientific definition. Stages of chaos can be applied to any traumatic event or daily situations even. Each day there are small things that happen that throw us completely off balance. And I've seen that even in these small situations, the stages of chaos completely and utterly exist. So the first stage is shock. When this happens to us, it takes some time for it to sink into our brains. And when I mean this, I'm saying whatever event is causing stress is going to cause shock first. It takes time for us to actually wrap our minds around exactly what is happening to us and what's going on. Why is that? There are many reasons. The fact that stands out the most in my mind as far as the reasons is that we have been forced into a situation that we did not prepare for or that we were not prepared for. it's likely we've been injured as a result of the event or the situation. The best way to explain it as how this looks and what this means and what happens is to equate it to an injury to the human body. And I'm not talking about like a cut or a scrape. I'm talking about like a gunshot wound or a car accident. Anytime the body sustains a life-threatening injury, the first thing that happens is shock. The body goes into shock, and it sets in right away, and it numbs our pain, but also leaves us very, very vulnerable. In fact, the fact is that when we're in this stage, we'll often find we've been forced to walk through a door that we either weren't ready to walk through or we didn't even see there. Oftentimes, the situations are painful, again, equating it with physical harm to the body. The situations can range from loss of a loved one, in which you'll move through the stages of grief also, to the loss of a job, which I'm equating this hypothesis with specifically because this is what's recently happened to me. Sometimes it's true that we can see the situation coming. An example is if a loved one is terminal. You know that they're leaving. You know they're leaving you. But when they do, there's still some element of shock. Many times if the person, the loved one, has suffered and been long suffering in their pain, the shock has mostly worn off by the time that they pass. But at any rate, at some point in the journey, there's been an element of shock, and it's usually the first stage that you go through. Depending on the specifics of the situation, the duration of the stage varies. If it's a small situation like your child getting suspended from school for bad behavior, you'll be shocked, but you'll move through it fairly quickly and you'll render consequences that are appropriate. Another example is if your teenager would get pregnant. It's shocking, but it doesn't mean that you're mad. It just means that you didn't see it coming. It also doesn't mean that you're a bad person for feeling the sting of the situation. We're all human, and that makes us open to all elements of vulnerability and all pain. For more intense situations, specifically job loss, the shock might last for a week or so. It may even last as long as a month. It depends on where you're at and how able you are to heal. Especially if the situation was unexpected, the shock is going to be even greater. On the flip side of that coin, however, if you have good instincts, you may have known something was off, that something didn't make sense, or you may think your job loss will actually happen, but you're not certain when. Either way, when it does happen, the very first stage you're going to go through is shock. What if something good happens? Can you feel shock? Yeah, you can. Granted, the shock doesn't last as long as it does with trauma-related events, but there is an element of shock present. For example, if something wonderful was to happen to me out of the blue, I would be shocked, but I would be happy. And I would also be thankful, but I would still be shocked. There's an element of, oh, that happens when something, whatever happens, whether it's good or bad. Moving through this stage can be hard, but the other stages are harder still. This one, nevertheless, gets the ball rolling, so to speak, and you begin down a road of uncertainty and sometimes even darkness without even the shred of sunlight. What is important to remember is that faith is what keeps us alive. You can suffer and still have your faith. In fact, sometimes you can suffer because of your faith, but it doesn't make the shock any less stressful. Just because you're standing on principle and ethics and something bad happens to you, doesn't mean that the shock is going to feel less painful. That is all for today. The next episode will be on stage 2, which is denial. If you have questions, you can feel free to email me at traceeford@rocketmail.com or visit my website, traceeford.com. I will be happy to answer any questions that you have about this theory, as well. It's actually a hypothesis, but I am available to you if you have questions or need help or support. Sometimes the best way to get through a situation is to know who your friends are, to know who your supports are, and to utilize those, especially if you're in a rough situation. And that can range not only to job loss, but the loss of a loved one. The loss of a loved one can be absolutely and utterly traumatic, whether you saw it coming or whether you didn't. So you not only have to move through the stages of chaos, but you're moving through the grief periods as well. So if you need help or support, reach out to someone. You don't have to reach out to me, but reach out to someone that you know that you can count on and that you can get support from. With that, I'd like to say good afternoon, good evening, or good day wherever you are. Love and light to you. Have a wonderful day. Keep your head up. No matter what's going on in your life, there's a purpose, and always keep tight to your faith. Thanks for watching.